welcome back. It's time for math. I went to school and I grabbed our big book, which I had forgotten about when I was there before. So here's our story for the day called Parade Time, written by Bert Wiseman, illustrated by Mike Moran. It says, the hour hand is on the 8. It's 8 o'clock. It's time to put on my hat. So just like you would in the classroom, you need to say the answers with me. Look. Okay, can you see this? Sorry, I'm in the way. The hour hand is on the 9. It's 9 o'clock. It's time to grab my horn. The hour hand is on the 11. It's 11 o'clock. It's time to meet the band. The hour hand is on the 2. It's 2 o'clock. It's time to start the parade. Ta-da! So that's our story for time. Yesterday, we talked about our clock, and we talked about the fact that the clock has 2 hands. It has a shorter hand, which is the hour hand, and it has a longer hand, which is the minute hand. And when the minute hand is straight up on the 12, we say o'clock. So what time does this clock say right now? 8 o'clock. Very good. What time does this clock say? 4 o'clock. Very good. 4 o'clock. What time does this clock say? 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock. Excellent. Okay. So you should have your paper that is 15-2, writing time to the hour. How's that? My board keeps falling down today. I don't know what's happening. I don't think it can figure out what it wants to do. So let's try this. All right. So we have 2 different clocks. Okay. If you have a clock in your bedroom, you probably have a clock that looks like this little one, and we call this a digital clock. The round clock we call an analog clock. They both tell the same time. It's just they look differently. Hopefully that won't fall off. Okay. So let's look at the first clock. And let's make it say 4 o'clock. So if we're going to do that, we're going to do 4, 0, 0. And all your numbers are capital letters. They're tall. So I want you to copy that down onto this clock here. 4, 0, 0. And you see these dots here? That separates the hours from the minutes. So the hour is 4 and there is 0 minutes. Now, I don't know why they don't put this, but you need to have a dot right in between the 9 and the 3 and right in between the 12 and the 6. You need to have that center point for the arrows to come off of. So if it's o'clock, I need the straight line up on the 12 and I need a smaller hand pointing right at the 4 for 4 o'clock. Okay? Go ahead and do that. The next one is going to say 7 o'clock. So let's write the digital time first. 7, 0, 0. And again, we need to put that dot. If it's o'clock, where's the long hand, the minute hand going to be? On the 12. And then where's the little hand? Right at the 7. Remember we talked about making an arrow. So if you make an arrow, you come back away from the edge like that. It's really hard with these little things, and I have a marker. If you have a very sharp pencil, it's really easy to do. If you have a marker or something fatter, it doesn't work. Don't worry about it. As long as you make sure that one hand is clearly shorter than another, you're good. You don't need those arrows. Number 3, we're going to say is 11 o'clock. So 11, 0, 0. Put the dot. And if it's o'clock, we want that long hand going right up on the 12. And then the little hand right at the 11. And the last one is going to be 10 o'clock. Put the dot in the middle. Put the big hand right up at the 12 and the little hand at the 10. And we want to make sure that there's a difference between 10 and 11 o'clock. I always say in the classroom to be precise, and this is a very important time for you to be precise. Okay? So remember, this is a digital clock. These are analog clocks. Let's move that down. And open up your paper to the middle. Let's look across the top. It says, Luke eats breakfast at 7 o'clock. We see the little hand is on the 7 and the minute hand, the big hand is on the 12. This clock shows 7 o'clock. 7, when it's on the 12, we say o'clock. This clock shows 7 o'clock another way. 7 tells the hour, 0, 0 tells the minutes. Remember, this is an analog clock. This is a digital clock. 7 o'clock is the same as 700. So this analog clock says 7 o'clock. This digital clock says 7 o'clock, the exact same time. Okay? It says, draw the hands on each clock face, then write the time on the other clock. So if this is 3 o'clock, we have the short hand on the 3, the long hand on the 12, and then we trace over 3, 0, 0. Try to make your numbers the same height. The hour and the minutes have to be the same height. They're all capital letters. Numbers are always the same height. Okay, they still haven't done this little dot. So let's go through and put the little dot in the middle all at the same time. There we go. So if these clocks are going to say 5 o'clock, where does the little hand go? On the 5. Go ahead and do that. Pointing to the 5. It doesn't touch it, just aims at it. And then the minute hand goes on the 12 for o'clock. And how do you write 5 o'clock in digital time? 5, 0, 0. Okay? Number 3, 12 o'clock. Well, this one, if I'm going to show the arrows, I can just do some part way up. 12 o'clock always looks kind of funny. If you notice, in mine, 12 o'clock, you only see one hand. And then 12, 0, 0. How about 11 o'clock? Can you make the clock say 11 o'clock? The little hand is pointing to the 11, and the big hand is pointing to the 12. And we write 11, 0, 0 for o'clock. It says, how far does the hour hand move in 1 hour? How far does the minute hand move in 1 hour? Oh, this is such an interesting question. So if it's 1 o'clock, how far does the hour hand go from 1 to 2? Well, in that hour, watch. It only moves to the next number. So it just went from 1 to 2. But look at the minute hand. It goes from 12 all the way around the clock and all the way back to 12 in an hour. So the hour hand just goes from one number to the next, but the minute hand goes all the way around the clock in an hour. Isn't that so interesting? I think so. Okay, independent practice. Draw the hands on each clock face, then write the time on the other clock. So for number 5, don't forget to put your dot. 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 Okay? You need to draw the hands on the analog clock, and then you need to write the digital time. So go ahead and do numbers 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'm going to give you a minute to do that. Did I give you enough time? Okay, let's look. 2 o'clock. The little hand is on the 2, and the big hand is on the 12, and we have 2, 0, 0. Is that what you have? Excellent. How about 4 o'clock? The little hand is on the 4, the big hand is on the 12, 4, 0, 0. Is that what you have? Good job. 6 o'clock. The little hand is to the 6, the big hand is to the 12. That one you have to be careful so that you can see the difference between the little hand and the big hand. 6, 0, 0. And the last one is 9 o'clock. The little hand is on the 9, the big hand is on the 12, 9, 0, 0. How'd you do? Thumbs up? I hope so. It says write the missing times. Well, we have 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. What comes next? 8 o'clock. So 8, 0, 0. Then we have 9 o'clock. Then we have 10 o'clock. Then we have 11 o'clock. 11, 0, 0. You doing okay? All right. Let's turn to the back. Problem solving. It says solve the problems below. Raul starts riding his bike at 1 o'clock. So whenever you have a story problem, it helps to have a clock. So you have your little clock that I gave you. So let's start it at 1 o'clock. So it says Raul starts riding his bike at 1 o'clock. He rides for 1 hour. What time does Raul stop? Draw the clock hands, then write the time. So if he starts at 1 o'clock and he rides his bike for 1 whole hour, what time is it? 2 o'clock. Very good. So the little hand is on the 2, the big hand is on the 12, and we write 2, 0, 0. It's 1 hour later than when we started. Which clock shows the same time as this clock? Well, what time does that say? Good, 8 o'clock. So it's this one right here. You have follow the directions for page 219 and 220. Take a picture and send it to me. If you have some extra time, play with your clock a little bit. Play with your clock a little bit and see the hours and make sure you can tell the difference between the hour hand and the minute hand and what time it is. This is the last time I'll see you today. I will see you tomorrow. Have a good night.